Do you remember when I got in some trouble where I talked about waterboarding? They asked me a question. They started off, they asked Ted Cruz a question, and he rightfully didn't want to get into it, and it was a little bit, you know, like, don't ask me about waterboarding. Well, they asked me the question. I said, I'll answer that question. They said, what do you think about waterboarding? I said, I like it a lot, and I don't think it's tough enough. You know, we have an enemy that's chopping off people's heads, Christians in particular. Do you know, if you were a Christian, and I have tremendous evangelical support, I think you all know that, but if you were a Christian from Syria, it was one of the hardest places in the world to come into the United States. In other words, if you were a Christian from Syria, very likely going to be just horribly treated, including the ultimate treatment, which is having your head chopped off. It was one of the hardest things you could do was to get into the United States. If you were a Muslim from Syria, it was one of the easier places to come into the United States from. And I'm not saying one or the other. I'm saying, how unfair is that? How bad is that? So we have people chopping off heads and drowning 30, 40, 50 people at a time in steel cages, right? Nobody's ever seen this before. This is like from the Middle Ages. Nobody's seen this. When you see, a few years ago it began, right? With a wonderful young man whose parents I know. It began and nobody saw that. You know, people get shot, people get wounded, people get hurt, it's war. But nobody saw the chopping off of heads. And now you see 40 and 50 at a time on the beach in the orange uniforms. And you see things happening that you haven't seen it. It's like medieval times. We're living in medieval times. We have to stop it. We have to be so strong. We have to fight so viciously and violently because we're dealing with violent people, vicious people. They probably think we're weak, we're stupid, we don't know what we're doing, we have no leadership. You know, you have to fight fire with fire. We have people out there